Hey everyone, we're live here talking about Google Classroom. I'm Rob Pennington.
I'm
I
Alexis
am,
Fletcher,
and I'm a tech coach in Norwalk, Connecticut.
and I am a technology leader in Danbury, Connecticut.
And one of the Google Classroom is a new tool that came out, well, not really new now, but it came out a little over a year ago, and it's helping to transform classrooms. It is more than just assignments. I know that it's something that will help to streamline your class. Alexa, how have you used Google Classroom, or do you use Google Classroom?
I definitely do use Google Classroom. I've used it with all of my high school English classes and my creative writing classes, and I've also used it. I've been a student where I have been used it to help to gather evidence for NEASC collection and also just to use it as a forum to communicate with other technology coaches and technology leaders.
And I've used Google Classroom. I actually was part of the beta test for Google. I used it with my students, and I found that you could use it for a lot of other things as well. As the head tech coach in Norwalk, I created a Google Classroom for the tech coaches so that we could share ideas and resources. And you can use it for a lot of different ways, book studies. So what are the main features or that you see in Google Classroom?
What I love about Google Classroom is that it is a learning management system that can be used by all educators. You don't have to be tech savvy in order to use Google Classroom. There's three main features. There is the stream, there's the student section, and then there is the about section. And that's it. There are just those three main components, and it makes it really user friendly. However, it doesn't mean that people who are tech savvy that they have to keep it really basic. So Google has created this system that makes it available for all educators. So instead of having this system that you have this huge learning curve, you can create a class and get started right away. There's really just a, I don't know, what do you say, Rob, a 2 to 3 minute learning curve, and that's it.
And that's one of the things I always tell people. The best part of Google Classroom is the simplicity. You can get on and get started fairly quickly. And I'm going to actually share my screen so that we can take a look and see some of the features of Google Classroom. And I think you mentioned already, you mentioned a couple of them, and I'm going to just quickly walk through. So in creating a class, one of the things you have to do is just click the plus button, and you can add a class. It's that quick. You name it, and that will create a folder in your Google Drive where all of the assignments will be going. Each class that you create will have a separate folder.
And that's my probably my favorite part, Rob, is that all of the organization is done for you in Google Classroom. You don't have to go back and then put the assignments in separate folders. And everyone who knows, who has had students who have emailed their shared documents to you knows that you really quickly can have a very unorganized Google Drive. Google Classroom does all of it for you. Everything is automatically put into folders by assignment, and you don't have to touch it. If you need to go back and find something, it's already there. It's put into its own subfolder, and by student, it's organizes everything right there for you.
And that's definitely as a teacher who's busy, the fact that that's saving time and organization it does it for you is fantastic. So you've already mentioned there are three major tabs. There's the stream tab, the students tab, and the about tab. And the stream tab is constantly changing. It's if you make an announcement or an assignment, and those are the two things that you can add to your classroom are announcements and assignments. it will constantly feed with the newest post being at the top and older post going down. The about section is more of a static page, and that's where you want to keep certain things that you want your students to access. It might be your syllabus. It might be, you can add a Google Calendar there. What other things have you added in the about section?
I've put a welcome video to parents, so parents who couldn't make it to back to school night were able to see me and meet me. I have had, that's where I've put my MLA formatting information. I've had teachers who have put their science teachers who've put their lab procedures there, anything that you're going to have students be using on a regular basis, things that you don't want them to lose. Think of this as what you would have students in a notebook keeping in their folder. This is all of that information that you want them to be able to access and pull out on a regular basis. This is their binder, and anything that you want them to put into that binder that you would want them to hole punch, you can put right here in that about section. You can upload documents, you can upload Excel sheet, or you can upload any sort of documents, anything that you'd like.
And I would agree. And if you look, here's a bunch of classes that I've created, and you could see just by clicking on the plus button here that you can add a new class pretty simply, which I've always found to be one of the best features of Google Classroom. But if I were to click on a class and click on the About section, you can see in the About section here, Google Hangout office hours. And this won't change because this is just a static page. You can add materials, do nows. I love the fact that you added a video. I think that is a great feature for different students to show their parents. You can add a class calendar where you can keep everything that you need, course requirements. So this is also where you can invite a teacher, which is a newer feature to Google Classroom. You have the ability to invite a teacher to co-teach the class with you. They can create assignments. They can create announcements. You can plan before class with a co-teacher.
Yep, it's a great way to prep for your classes, and it doesn't have to be just one co-teacher. You can really team teach here, and Google has great thing we want to add here is that Google listens. It's not just a technology where it's created and then it's done. Google, they listen to our feedback, and this teachers asked for the feature to be able to co-teach and to have team teaching, and this was something that was added in April of this year, the ability to plan beforehand and save drafts of lessons and whatever it is that you wanted to have available for assignments and announcements, and the ability to team teach.
Absolutely. And we also have the announcements page and the assignment page. And what would you say the difference between the two are?
The announcement page is anything that you want students to see, but not necessarily have a due date for. So you could use this as a, hey guys, reminder, you have a test coming up on Friday, or please watch this video. You can post a link. I would often post a link to a Google form that I might have for an assessment, or just here, please post a Google form and post what independent book that you're reading. You can use the announcement for anything that doesn't have a definitive due date that you need students to do right that moment. Whereas the assignment is something that the students need to do, and that if they don't do, it's going to be left undone on their side, and that there will be a constant reminder for them that it's left undone. So the assignment will need to be graded by you, and you have the option to not grade it, that it's an ungraded assignment. But assignments are something that the students have to do. There's something that must be done on their side. So that's how I like to kind of differentiate between them. Announcements are kind of a heads up, whereas assignments are something that should be done on their end, that you're expecting from them.
I agree. And with the announcements, I can share things. I can add videos I want them to see. It's not something that they have to do. It's something that I'm giving them or providing to them, or something I want them to know. It's also a great opportunity with the announcements is to, in a closed environment, model digital citizenship.
Absolutely.
You can have a discussion, your students can respond, and so you're in this closed environment and you have the opportunity to have a discussion with students, with other teachers. And that's the other thing I like about Google Classroom, is that because it's not a huge management system, every teacher can simply join, create a class, and it's part of your digital tool belt. It's not going to become the whole part of your class, but it's one of the things that you're using in your classroom. Now, an assignment, I would agree, it is something that they have to do, and it will distribute an assignment to each of them. You actually have 3 options. The 3 options that you have are students can view a document, students can edit a document, or teachers can make a copy for every student, so they get their own copy and they will turn in their own copy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, go ahead.
The way that I like to explain this to teachers when I'm explaining this face to face is that when you have the option for students to view a file, that's if you were to be giving them a handout that you don't want them to necessarily write on that actual handout. That's something that you just are showing to them, and you don't want them to write on it with their own pen. Whereas if you have students, you make a copy for students, that's something that you actually want them to write on, and like a worksheet. So that's how I kind of differentiate between the two. So if you're just viewing the file, students can't edit that themselves. But if you're making a copy for them, they actually have the ability, as long as it's a Google Doc. If you use it as a Word file, they can't actually write in it themselves. It won't save that way. Just a heads up to everybody there. You need to save it as a Google Doc first. But if you make a copy for each student, there they have their own worksheet that they can type directly in, and then they can submit that file to you. So you don't have to make a copy for each student individually, no more wasted papers, no handouts, no losing papers. And then they get timestamps, so you know exactly when the student hands it in, and you can see immediately who's handed something in and who hasn't. So it's a really great way to manage your assignments.
The other feature that I find to be very powerful, and unless you can see what the students see, teachers might not know this. So if you give each student an assignment that they can view, but you want them to do something, they can turn in a document. They can turn it in via link. They can upload a file, or they can upload something from Google Drive.
Mm-hmm.
And they can add multiple different, they can add more than one.
Yes.
So if they wanted to turn in something they typed in Google Drive with a video, and they wanted to share the link with you via video, they can turn both of those in and then mark as done, and you will get both of those assignments into your, it'll come to you saying that it's done, and you will get them in your Google Drive folder. And because of that, that allows us to use Google Classroom. The iPad app came out last year, and it's really great because students can create with Explain Everything, or with iMovie, or with Book Creator, and they can just upload it. They can upload the file. They can give a link. So it's not just something that you are tied down to just sharing assignments. Worksheet assignments. You can do so much more. You can have the students become creators instead of just you know, working with those things. Now with a Chromebook, you can have them upload a link, a ThingLink, or they can create a video in WeVideo, or they can use Powtoon, and they can just create those assignments, and they can upload them right back to you. They can share them back.
Yeah, I work exclusively with Chromebooks, and I've had my students do everything from creating movies to creating um, podcasts. I mean, we use our Chromebooks for everything, and we found them to be incredibly powerful tools. And we upload everything right into our Google Classroom in one assignment. So because you can upload those multiple documents and links and videos in one assignment, which is wonderful for me as a teacher. I don't have to go searching for things and looking for where they are. It's with one student under one assignment, and all of their assignments are there under that one assignment. So it's not a matter of searching for things.
What about, let's take a step back for a second. What about adding students to a class?
There's two really easy ways to do that. The first way to do that is through invitation. And when starting a class, that would be, you can do that by sending out, if you already have a group of students, you can send that out through your email, and you can invite all of the students that you'd like to invite, and you can do that from the student section. Or if you have your students right there with you, you can just put your invitation code or your code up there on your projector, and students would just simply enter in that code. And once that code is up there, you can either close that code off so no more students can join, or you can change that code, whatever you would like to do. So it's really simple. You have either that invitation, you can do it manually, or you can have students join by code. Very, very simple.
And the first time that I did this, I went through and I added each student, and it's a lot easier with the code.
Yes.
All of the students can quickly add themselves. They just quickly hit the plus button at the top. This is from a student view, and they'll be asked to enter in the code.
Yes.
So those are two different things, two different ways that you can add students to your class. What problems would you say Google Classroom solves?
I think Google Classroom really helps to solve an organization problems. Your Google Drive is automatically organized. You don't have lost papers. You don't have the issue of, well, I sent that over, well, I didn't receive it. Everything's automatically time-stamped. The students find themselves to be a lot more organized. They have access to the mobile app of Google Classroom, and Google Classroom just came out this July with mobile notifications. So students and teachers are notified, if they choose to be, with when new assignments are posted, when grades are posted, comments. So it's just a lot more organized than the traditional paper classroom can be. And you don't have the stacks of papers that you're carrying home any longer. You just have your laptop or your Chromebook, and that makes lives a lot more easy for both teachers and for students. What do you think, Rob? How about for you? How's it solved problems?
For me, it's really just helps me to stay organized, like you said, but it also gives my students, it breaks down the walls of the classroom where I can have that ability to communicate with my students outside of the regular school day.
I agree.
If they have questions, it's a quick and easy discussion that they can ask me a question. They can share something with me. Like I said, I use it. I have Google Office Hours, Google Hangout Office Hours, where they go to the About section at a certain time, and I've created that. And they can click on it, and I'll be there. I dedicate half an hour to 45 minutes with my students, and say, if you have any questions, hop into the Google Hangout. And at the beginning, they didn't want to really use it. It was something different and new. And then as the year went on, they said, you know, they really looked forward to that because with our long-term projects, they wanted to have that time. So it really worked out where I'd get a couple of students that would join in and we would have a conversation about their project.
Well,
And
that's
that was really because, you know, we used Google Classroom.
great. Excellent.
So we have some people that are here. They want to use it as a tool for communication, collaboration between students. And I think that really is one of a great tool with Google Classroom, is the fact that you can have students collaborate on documents or on projects. The other thing that I've done with assignments is I've been able to differentiate assignments. When I create an assignment, I'll create assignment A, assignment B, assignment C, all under the same assignment, and I'll let students know what letter they have, and that way I can differentiate with my students.
Definitely. And what I've found, I had a collaborative final exam for when I was teaching high school English, and my students, for the most part, for the final 2 weeks of school, they did their group work almost exclusively using a Google Doc from home, and they worked collaboratively at the same time on that Google Doc, and they used it as a chat, and they were able to work and submitting that into the Google Classroom, using that doc as their collaborative space to work, and then ultimately using Google Hangout when they needed to actually have that face-to-face time. And it's really, you can use your Google Classroom as the starting point to give those assignments and teach the students how to effectively use their Google apps for education appropriately. So the Google Classroom is kind of the vehicle, and from there you can teach students what the appropriate tool is to use. And there's so many wonderful different products that Google has now for free that students can use, and it's just a matter of choosing the right one. And that's something that, from a collaborative standpoint, there, in my mind, there's nothing better than the Google products that we have out there.
One of the questions that was asked is, do you have to have a Google account to use Classroom? Well, you do need a Google Apps for Education account. It is a closed system, which some people really like. Some people wish that it could be open so that you could share your classroom with parents. Right now, that's not a feature. I know that Google is coming out with a new feature this month. They just came out with a new feature at ISTE. And do you want to talk a little bit about the new feature that they came out with at ISTE?
With the share feature?
With the share feature, correct.
Sure. So this June, the end of June, beginning of July, Google came out with a share integration feature that several different education sites and companies have committed to integrating with Google, that like, for example, PBS Online and Quizlet, Discovery Education, just to name a few, are integrating with Google Classroom, that you will be able to share their content directly to your Google Classroom just by clicking a button. So if you're on PBS's site and you have a video that you like and you want to share that with your students, you'll be able to just click and it will go directly to your Google Classroom. So it's opening up the lines of communication a little bit more, because Google Classroom has been a very closed system from this point before. But and I think more, Rob, you might correct me here, more than 100 sites have committed to moving forward with this. It's just in its very early stages now. But that will be a really nice way to have that integration moving forward. So you don't have to necessarily get the link and then put the link into your Google Classroom. It saves teachers some steps, because you have not been able to embed video into Google Classroom in the past. You've just been able to post the video link, and the video appears in your classroom.
But students could add, videos that they've made through the upload feature. But
Yes.
now if a student is doing something in a different program, they're going to have, it's just going to be shared to Google Classroom.
Yes,
So
exactly.
it's going to streamline that process a lot for students and teachers. And I think that's one of the greatest things about Google Classroom is the fact that it makes it extremely simple for students and for teachers. And
Mhm.
that's why I've seen teachers start an LMS system in the past, and it becomes very overwhelming where they have to run everything that they're doing, every part of their class runs through the LMS. And with Google Classroom, that's not the case. You can use it for certain aspects, and it just really becomes part of the culture of the class. And I've seen teachers over the last year stick with it, use it, because it is simple to use, because it is easy to use, and because it it has what they need for their class.
Yep. And Google's tagline with this is less teching, more teaching, and that's really what I've been helping other teachers to implement Google Classroom. It's There's really no startup time here. You don't have to learn the technology. The technology is there to help you in your classroom. It's not that you have this huge startup time. And that's what I think most teachers have found to be helpful is that it's you don't have to be tech savvy, but if you are tech savvy, there's so much that you can do with Google Classroom. If you know, Alice Keeler is a has so many different tips. If you go to alicekeeler.com, she's literally written the book on Google Classroom. And if you want to go much further into beyond the basics of Google Classroom, she has some wonderful things that you can do to take Google Classroom further beyond even the basic and intermediate, and really integrating all of the other Google apps for education into your Google Classroom use.
And some of the main features that Google Classroom has, distributing documents, sharing resources, making announcements, simplifying the turn-in process, the fact that you can have collaboration, emailing students in Google Classroom does work. It does work if students don't have Gmail, because I know some districts, they block Gmail, but you can use the rest of Google Apps for Education. And it does work even if that is the case. They'll still get all of their documents. They'll still share everything with you. They just won't get an email notification. And that always seems to be a question that comes up. Assignment questions, after-hour support, view and grade student work, in-class activities. What else can you do? Do you have any other things that you think that you can do? And if people have questions, you can tweet us questions. You can ask in the Q&A feature of the Google Hangout if you're watching live. But do you have any other, Alexa, that you could recommend?
I just think that it's be creative and see what your students think. I think it really depends on the class and what your students' capabilities are, and it's just take risks and let your students know that you're taking risks. And I think that's the most important part. Don't be afraid to try it, and you won't know what you can do until you actually try it. This is, I think, teachers are finding out every day what they can do with Google Classroom simply because they are saying, "Hey, this might work," and then we're figuring it out. It is a fairly simple technology that we every day are figuring out what works and what doesn't work, and we go from there. So give it a shot, and don't be afraid to try it with your students.
So one of the things that I like to talk about is Tech Tuesdays. It's a great way to share resources. So I actually created a Google Classroom for Tech Tuesdays, and we talk about different resources and different things you can use in your class. And I share all the links through the Google Classroom. And then throughout the week, if teachers have questions, they can ask questions right in Google Classroom. That way, I'm not the only one that can answer questions. We also have a huge group of other educators that can answer questions. You can share blogs, tools, and websites. You can actually have a whole book discussion. If your school is reading a book um, as part of professional development, you can have the discussion right in Google Classroom and share different clips and different resources. It helps for collaboration amongst teachers. Teachers don't, they can create a classroom and share. If you're a team, I'm a middle school teacher, so one of the things, our team has a Google Classroom that we are constantly sharing different documents, different videos, different resources, just quickly in one environment. It will complement another LMS. So if you're using Schoology or Edmodo or Canvas, you can still use Google Classroom with those different LMS systems, because there isn't a calendar that's embedded in Google Classroom. Can you add one? Yes, you can put it in the About section. But Google is constantly adding new features all the time. And that's one of the things that I think is, they listen to teachers. You want to make sure that you use the question feature, and I'll show that so that you can kind of see exactly what I'm talking about. And so if I were to, one second. If I was to come here, you can see there's a question mark. And right in the question mark, you can see what's new with Google Classroom, because they're constantly adding new things. You can send feedback. You can ask a question to Google. And, this is your feedback question. What comments do you have? What do you want to add? What do you want to see? And they really do listen. The invite teacher right here, that came from a group constantly asking for this feature because they wanted to be able to co-teach. So Google does listen. But if you're not sure, they can even take you to the Help Center. And this is where you can learn everything that you need to find about Google Classroom. And it's once you get started, if you are stuck, right there you can go and quickly click on the question mark and get some extra help. And I think that that's a great feature. So we have a couple questions. It says, do you usually share a document with your students as part of an assignment, or do they create a document? And that was from Susan. What do you do, Alexa?
I usually make a copy for my students. Well, it depends on what it is. If it's a writing assignment, they'll usually create their own, simply because I'll give them a prompt and then they will create their own. But if it's something where I'm giving them annotations or I want them to be answering questions, I'll make a copy for the class, for each student. And I want them to write directly in there, simply because it helps them learn to take notes. I will give them a lot of, I found personally as I was a high school English teacher, that students did not know how to take notes. And oftentimes I would post assignments where I wanted students I would ask question prompts, and I would want students to take notes as we were listening to something or reading something or doing close reads. And I found that they were able to write directly into the document. It was very helpful. So I would do one or the other. It really depends on what type of assignment that you're giving. And that's where, kind of going back to my statement before, you have to do what works for you in your classroom and find out what works best for your students. You're really going to tailor your Google Classroom experience to what you do in the classroom, and finding out what works best for you.
And I'm on the other side of the coin, is that I would actually share the assignment with my students and then have them upload whatever I was having them create, because I wanted I wanted my students to usually create a thing link, and I actually gave them a lot of choice. So I would give them 3 or 4 different tools they could use, and have them choose how they wanted to show content, what they learned. And so because I was giving them so many different options, I shared the assignment with them, which was just they could see they could view the document, and then I would have them upload their final product. So as Alexis said, you really have to find what works for you when we're talking about even the assignment, because there are assignments where you want to share a copy for everyone, and then they can type right on the document and they can turn it back in. But then there's other assignments where you want them to create something and then upload it. So it really depends on the assignment as well.
My biggest suggestion, though, and this is just from doing this with other teachers for quite some time, please just make sure that all of your assignments are moved over before you upload them into Google Doc format and away from Word format, because it may look to you like it's uploaded properly if it's in Word format. However, students will not be able to write directly in the document if it's in a Word format. And you can tell the difference because the Word format will have a W and the Google Doc format will have just lines. We just have had, I've had many a teacher come to me and say, the student's work is blank, the student's work is blank, and that's because if it is in just a Word document format, the student's work will show up being blank. Even though they've done the work, it won't save properly. So just word of advice is to move it over. Just save it as a Google Doc before you upload the assignment to the students.
So I guess tech allows us to do things differently. Oh, we have another question first. So let me get to the question. It says, when I log in, I need to have a Google Classroom account. When I log into a Google Classroom, you have to be under an education account. What does that mean? It means that you have to have a Google Apps for Education domain to log in. You can't log in with a personal Gmail. Yeah. It has to be something that the district has made a Google Apps for Ed accounts, and then you can log in and use Google Classroom. So that was another question that we had. So I think we'll take a few minutes and just quickly walk through setting up a class. And then if people have questions or people have anything that they want to know in particular about, Google Classroom, we've talked about different assignments. We didn't talk about grading. And so maybe I think we can look at grading when we create a class. So let's quickly create a class, and let me just do a screen share. And you can see I have different classes for different things. We have training session, Tech Tuesdays, mystery Skypes. I even created a Google Classroom for the mystery Skype just so everything would be in one place for my students. And that's, I found it to be such a great time saver. So we did a mystery Skype with another class across the world, and this is EdCamp Global, so it's a great opportunity to talk about EdCamp, to talk about having mystery Skypes with other classes around the world. But you can click on it and you can see that students would type things in. There's mystery Skype questions, there's a Google form. So there's a lot of resources that students can quickly find by using Google Classroom. Alexa, do you use it with a website, or do you use it as a standalone? How do you use it?
Google Classroom?
Yes.
I use Google Classroom in conjunction with a blog. So I have my classroom blog and students do most of their summative assessments. I just like my homework to be public. That's their written homework assignments to be public. Simply, with my high school students, I find that there's the accountability piece of it when they have the digital piece of it when it's on the blog, which you don't get with Google Classroom because of the closed system. But the majority of their formal assignments are going through Google Classroom. And talking about grading, I have a I feel very strongly about my Google Classroom grading here, and Rob and I know that we differ with our opinions here. I personally do not use Google Classroom as a grading system because I do not want my students to just open up Google Classroom, see their grade, and not open up the document. I use my Google Docs as a place for reflection, and I want my students to receive my feedback. I don't want them to just look at my grade. And I don't want them to see, oh, I got a 92 out of 100 on this writing assignment, and that's it. I'm not going to look at anything else that Mrs. Schlechter told me. I embed my rubrics in my Google Doc. You can use Doctopus. There's a lot of add-ons that you can use. Personally, I don't do that because I want my students to go in and be forced to read my comments before receiving a grade. Because I think that is, for my writing assignments, the most important piece of the writing assignment is to understand for their own reflection piece. So I do not use, I do all of my Google Classroom assignments as ungraded. Personal preference, you do not need to do that. You can do that any way that you'd like to. And Rob, you can certainly now talk about how you use Google Classroom to grade.
So with Google Classroom, one of the things that I notice is that it does have a grading system, and it does not link to any other system, but there is a grading system in there. If you go to assignments, you can click on students that are done, and you have a grading system 1, 2. Let me just share my screen so that people can see what I'm doing. And it does have a grade right here, and you can quickly pick out of 100. I can go in and I can just do 95. Now, some people like that feature. Some people wish that it was connected to a grade book. So you can see here we have their grade. And I personally like that it's not connected to the grade book because we have a specific grade book for the district. So we're looking at an opportunity to make this grade populate right into our grade book. But I actually use one of Alice Keeler's tips. I use a split screen. I put the grade in on one side. I add the grade into my grade book. The other thing that I like to do is I do like to use rubrics as well, but I like to use rubrics using Doctopus and also using Goobrix, so that as I'm grading it, it will show right onto their document where they scored on the rubric, and they get it, and they get their rubric back, and it would look something like, share screen. It would look something like this. So here's a presentation that the kids made, and at the top you can see the rubric. You can quickly just check the box and it will put in their score. You can add comments. You can add audio comments. So you can they can click on it and they can listen to what I'm saying. And that is using a couple add-ons, which is a little bit more complicated, but it's using Doctopus and Goobrix. So you would create a rubric in Google Sheets, run the add-on, connect to a class in Classroom using Doctopus, and you can run Goobrix to attach the rubric, finalize and return to the students. They will actually get the rubric back to them. So that's one of the things that I really like to use when grading assignments, because I don't like just giving them a number. It doesn't say anything. It's just a number. but with the rubric, I can actually have them, I can actually have students see where they scored in the rubric. So we have a question. This is from Michelle. She said, I teach an upper elementary level, 4 to 6, have email accounts. Since to share well, my room. Do you think this will work?
What was the second part of the question?
So she
The
had the tech.
4 to 6 and then
She had a tech guy create one student email for elementary students to share while in my room. Do you think it will work? My answer is yes, it will, because you don't, as long as they have their own account,
yeah,
they have to have their own account. They don't have to have an email.
no,
They have to have their own Gmail, their own Google account.
yes, definitely.
So if they have their own Google account, this will work because everything will be in Google Classroom. Now
Yeah,
they
they just need to be able to log in and go, because once they log in, it's going to be, they just need to be able to go to classroom.google.com once they're logged in.
correct.
And that would be it. They don't need to have an email. Because the only thing the email would do is to give them notifications, but the notifications are just to when you're assigning things or things like that. You can certainly use Classroom without getting notifications, as long as you, the teacher, are giving them verbal notifications or writing the notifications on the board, however you normally give notifications about assignments. And the students would just need to be able to log into their own Google accounts on your computers, your Chromebooks, whatever you use, and they would need to go to classroom.google.com, and from there they would access your classroom. I think it's a great way to introduce students to online collaboration, again, because it's such a user-friendly management system.
And I started to before I started to talk a little bit about creating a class and going through all that stuff. So we have about 10 minutes left. I did get a question that asked, how can we, and yes, I will share this presentation under the EdCamp Global hashtag. So anyone who wanted it, I will share it. But if you just click plus, you can just quickly create a class. I can name the class. I can name it EdCamp Global. And you could see EdCamp Global here. So it will create the class. Might take a second. And you can see here, it has the world. You can change that just by selecting upload photo. And now I have a class. Here I can add students. I can invite individual students if I wanted to, but I also have a code here that they can join. So if I had all the students in front of me, I can quickly show that code. I have the About section where I can add, this is my folder in Google Drive. I can invite another teacher to join me. I could put where this class meets. Class meets in 310. I could put a title, EdCamp Global Classroom. And that will save. I can go back to my stream. I can create an announcement. It can say, welcome to my class. Here I can add a link. I can add a YouTube video. This is right now a draft until I hit post. I can add and upload a file. I can attach something right from Google Drive. I can also share it with other classes that I teach. So if I teach 5 classes, I can just quickly click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it will share with 5 classes. I can click post. It will be posted. I can create an assignment. I can, Alice Keeler's #1 tip, number each assignment so that they're easier to find. So this is assignment 1, and it can be intro. I can put when the due date is. So the due date's going to be August 5th. I can add something from my Google Drive. It can be any assignment. It could be any document. I can just quickly add this. It's there. Here's where I can choose. Students can view. Students can edit, make a copy. I can click on make a copy for each student. If I wanted to, I quickly can, if I wanted to add something else, I wanted to add a YouTube video, I can add an in.
And this is where you can put, if there's a rubric for the assignment, you can put the rubric there. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that they need to do something to. They can just be something that they can need, that they can
Correct.
reference.
And that could help them with the assignment. So
Yes.
here I added a YouTube video, Why Study History. I can add more if I wanted to. And I think I said this before, this is where you can differentiate. You can make an assignment A, an assignment B, assignment D, and you can break up your classes based on ability level and give them different assignments. So now you're truly differentiating. So I then can click assign, and it will assign it to all of my students in the class. It'll tell me how many are done, how many are not done.
And what I also love about Google Classroom, we have a drop and rotating schedule. So we have 8 classes, but a 7 class period schedule. Confusing, but I won't take your time by explaining it. But I don't see all of my classes every day. So it used to be so difficult to try to give an assignment date where, okay, what day do I have all of these students and I want everything due on the same day. Now, even if I don't have the class, I can say it's due on, on September 7th for everybody. Even if I don't have your class that day, it's still due by 3 p.m. And because everything is time stamped, I can see exactly when the students need to, when it's turned in. And it's been, that's really been, game changing for me as an educator.
So, and I think that it, like I said, even teachers that are not tech savvy have started to use Google Classroom because of the simplicity. You can show deleted stream here, the class code in case you have a new student that's added. One of the things that I really like is if I go here, I can see just the assignments. So, and I can choose just Ed Camp Global, and it will have all of my assignments here. So I really like that feature because now I can just look at, and this is to be reviewed, and this is ones that I have reviewed. So I can quickly get to those assignments. Here are all my classes, so I can quickly switch. You can archive a class when you're done with it, which I think is nice. And you can enroll in other classes. So one of the classes that I'm enrolled in is at the high school. They did an accreditation process. And here you could see this is something that I was enrolled in. But Google Classroom is great. I'm happy to help if anyone needs any help. You can tweet me or send me a message. I will share out this link. I guess the last question that I have for you, Alexa, is what's one feature you think Google Classroom needs? Because Google Classroom is constantly looking to get better. Google is always trying to improve. What do you think that they need?
Without hesitation, I don't even have to think about this one, that I want to see students be able to submit assignments together. I do so much group work that I want to be able to have Bob and Sue and James be able to submit an assignment together, so that when I assign something, if they're working on a document together, I want to be able to click off that they have submitted that assignment. So instead of, because right now, if they submit the assignment together, all 3 of them have to upload it individually. Otherwise, it says that 2 of them haven't done the assignment. And that is from a type A personality. I hate seeing that 2 of them are late, even though I know that they're not late. So what I do to combat that right now is I have them write in the comments who they've worked on the assignment with, so that I know that they have submitted it. But I wish that there was a way to check off who they've worked with collaboratively, or to have it somehow something to work on with collaborative groups when turning in assignments. I feel like that's lacking right now.
And for me, I still think that parents should be able to log in, even if it's they get their own special Google Apps for Education account so that they can, or they can link to their child's account. But
Or a special code or
special
something.
code, just for the accountability piece, especially in a middle school, parents are always asking about it. So I keep, a lot of stuff on a website just to keep them in the loop, because that's
Yep.
something that we need. And like I said, there is a new feature coming out this month. Make sure you check it out. Google's constantly changing. When they do change, when you log in, it will walk you through the new features, which I think is fantastic. And please use the question mark link, because if you have something that you want, you need to let Google know. All right. Thank you so much. Very happy to be part of EdCamp Global. Thank you, Alexa, for joining.
Oh, thank you for having me, Rob.
And if anyone has any questions, like I said, you're more than welcome to tweet either of us, and I will post the presentation. And have a great day, everyone.